The concept of time travel has always fascinated us. At its core, it reflects two very human desires. First, the wish to fix our past mistakes, and second, the curiosity to see how events unfold without having to wait for it. The curiosity applies not only to the future but also to the past, where we want to know exactly why something happened. From a scientific standpoint, traveling to the future doesn't create any paradoxes. In fact, it might even be possible one day with advanced technology. It's traveling to the past that gets messy. This is where different theories emerge. Some introduce paradoxes, others suggest alternate universes or branched timelines. Let me briefly explain the different interpretations and paradoxes. The alternate universe theory explains that when you travel back in time and make a change, you don't alter your original time. Instead, your actions create a new timeline or a parallel universe, a branch being created from the very moment you made the change.
If you travel to the past, that past becomes your future, and your former present becomes the past, which can't now be changed by your new future.
If we go with just a single timeline and a single universe, that's where paradoxes appear. Because to resolve all these paradoxes, we can always consider the creation of an alternate timeline, where the change is made there and the original timeline has stayed the same, which resolves the paradox. So whenever we talk about paradoxes of time travel, it means that we're considering that our actions aren't going to create a new branch. And we consider that we stay within the same universe and timeline. The paradoxes usually fall into two categories. Based on the butterfly effect, the smallest changes in the current state of a system can lead to a completely different future. So traveling to the past either changes something, which leads to the consistency paradox, or no matter what the time traveler does, the timeline stays the same, meaning that the time traveler's actions were already part of the past, which leads to the causal loop. There is even a principle called the Novikov self-consistency principle, proposed by the physicist Igor Novikov in the 1980s. It states that if time travel to the past is possible, then the events must be self-consistent, meaning you cannot change the past in a way that creates a contradiction. It assumes that either there is only one timeline or that any other timelines are not accessible to the traveler, and any attempt to change the past is already baked into the timeline, reinforcing the causal loop. Before we jump into some examples, if you're enjoying this video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives like this. The grandfather paradox is an example of the consistency paradox. Imagine you go to the past and kill your grandfather before your father was born. This means that you will never be born, which means you can't go back to the past to kill your grandfather, so he will live and eventually you will born. And this creates a loop of an inconsistent universe that keeps bouncing between the two. Some stories are told within a universe like this, and in order to break the loop, they ignored the inconsistent part, only keep the change timeline and erase the original one completely. For instance, in X-Men Days of the Future Past, Wolverine's consciousness is sent back 50 years, where he wakes up in his younger self's body. Through his actions, he alters the course of history, and by the end, the original timeline is erased, and he continues living in the new, changed future. The bootstrap paradox is an example of the causal loop. This paradox happens when an object or piece of information has no clear origin or causes itself. For example, imagine you go to the past and hand the blueprints of a time machine to someone, which then uses those blueprints to create the time machine that you used to go there in the first place. This way, those blueprints have no clear creator. The predestination paradox is another well-known example of the causal loop. In this scenario, the time traveler tries to prevent an event but their actions ultimately cause it to happen. These paradoxes will exist in any timeline that follows the Novikov self-consistency principle. To avoid them feeling like plot holes and to make them make more sense, writers may insert multiple indirect steps between the time traveler's actions and their consequences. For example, in the series Dark, Jonas travels back to prevent his father's suicide and to break the loop. Through a chain of indirect, unintentional actions like his interactions with other characters across multiple timelines and multiple time travels, he ends up telling his father not to commit suicide, trying to break the loop. But that conversation becomes the very reason his father realizes he needs to do so.
Vielleicht bist du gar nicht hier, um mich aufzuhalten, sondern um mir überhaupt erst zu zeigen, was ich tun muss. Vielleicht hast du mir den Brief nur gezeigt, damit ich weiß, was darin steht, damit ich gehe und du lebst.
In some time travel stories, the journey begins with the goal of changing something in the past. Maybe to save someone, fix their regrets, or alter history. So even if a story follows Novikov's self-consistency principle, the time traveler usually is not aware of it at first. This means there is a pivotal moment when the time traveler realizes that no matter what they do, they aren't truly changing anything. Every action they take has already happened and is part of history, and their goal of changing it is destined to fail. At this moment, the character faces a choice: accept the fixed nature of the past and let go of their mission, or fight it by trying desperately to somehow force a change. Because now they know exactly what will happen in the future, from that point all the way to their present time. So they might be able to make a change. They might attempt something they know never happened, like killing someone who clearly survives in their memory, or by reaching out to their younger self with information they were never given. From this point on, the story becomes a battle between the time traveler and the universe, a struggle to defy fate while reality pushes back to keep the timeline intact. Different stories interpret this pushback in different ways. Most of the time, the character's realization is delayed until it's too late to act. Their actions may have already caused unintended consequences, helping to fulfill the very events they were trying to prevent. This is exactly what happens to Jonas in the example I mentioned earlier.
Ich bin du. Jeder Stein ist wieder da, wo hingehört. Jeder an seinem Bestimmungsort.
Some stories introduce higher dimensional forces, like the TVA in Marvel, that actively preserve the sacred timeline and destroy all the other branches.
Appears to be a standard sequence violation.
Don't touch that.
Variant identified. On behalf of the Time Variance Authority, I hereby arrest you for crimes against the sacred timeline.
Others introduce other time travelers that are trying to prevent any change in the past, like the game Quantum Break, where Paul Serene uses his knowledge of the future to ensure events unfold as he believes they're destined to. He tries to stop Jack Joyce from interfering, believing that altering the timeline could lead to catastrophic consequences.
Sorry, Jack.
Some stories rely on physical events, where fate intervenes through coincidence, misfortune, or bad timing to stop any meaningful change. The character might miss a crucial moment because their car breaks down, or they arrive too late, or their equipment suddenly fails. For example, in The Time Traveler's Wife, Henry tells his father that he tried hundreds of times, but was never able to arrive in time to save his mother from the car accident. Some use a self-correcting timeline, where the universe undoes the time traveler's changes, It actually allows the minor changes by the time traveler, but reverts them to preserve the original timeline. For example, if someone in the past receives information or interacts with the time traveler, they later forget about it completely. And of course, there may be countless other possibilities to stop any change, waiting for a creative writer to discover and explore them for the first time. To increase complexity and tension, stories can use multiple pushback mechanisms, feature several time travelers, include repeated jumps, and show characters interacting with their past or future selves. The purpose of time travel may differ as well. Witnessing an event, gathering info, changing the past, or even escaping danger. It may not even be voluntary. How much control the time travelers have over the timing, frequency, and destination of their jumps also shapes the narrative, especially whether they can return to their present or move into the future. A time travel story can be as simple as the movie Time Crimes, with one traveler in a single loop, or as complex as Dark, with connected timelines, many travelers, and deep paradoxes. Another really good example here is the movie Predestination, where the main character is his own father, mother, kidnapper, mentor, and the enemy at the same time. In conclusion, while time travel stories can take countless creative forms, they always follow one of the timeline models we explored in this video. Does the story involve a multiverse, or is it set in a single universe? If it's a single universe, can the past actually be changed? If it can't, how does the time traveler react to it? Do they accept their fate or try to fight it? And if they do resist, how does the story make sure history stays intact?